series of very degrading, very humiliating, very painful games. They're all naked, all fours, like a dog. They've all got a bowl of dog food in front of them. The person who's on all fours with the toilet roll in their arse on fire has to eat that bowl of dog food, can only get up and get that toilet roll out their arse if they complete that bowl of dog food.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast Beyond the Frontline with myself, Ryan Forrest, and James Williams, former UK Special Forces SRR. We're on episode 9 now, so before we get into it, we got a good one for you today, guys. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. A lot of yous watch. There's quite a lot of people not subscribed yet. It's really important, guys. So make sure to press that subscription button. James, how you doing?
Yeah, all good. The story develops, doesn't it? You know what? We're out of CTC. We've done Royal Marine training. Had a touch on unit life, probably in its most brutal way. Joining a unit who already combat served, combat fatigued. Probably, all wanting to go home. So pretty pissed off and threaders. Obviously, that's a bootneck term for not that happy. Yeah. Come back from Herrick 5 and joining the unit that I wanted to join, which was 40 Commando, ready for Herrick 7. Yeah.
Interesting. So did you put in for 40? Was that a thought, or did you, I know you had the parameters around where you were going to go and how that was going to happen. Yeah. You went to 4-2 because you were basically getting on a tour out there as a BCR. But was it always your intention to want to go to 40 after training effectively, or?
My intention was to go to 40 because I didn't want to pick up the back end of a tour, only do like 2-3 months of a tour. I wanted to go to a unit that was going to do a full tour of Afghanistan. And I wanted to go to a unit where I could, do PDT with a bunch of guys that I bedded in with, build up camaraderie with. We was pretty much all in the same boat and we was all going to go and embark on this adventure, I guess, all together from the start.
So Herrick 5-4-2 was 6-4-5 Commando then, I'm guessing.
No, 6 would have been. Why do I think it was Anglians? So what?
All right, how does that work?
So I remember the rotation would be Bootnecks, hand over to an army regiment. Bootnecks, over to an army regiment.
Right. So So it wasn't as belt fed as I thought it was then. It still is, but it's like what basically once a year, 6 months of that year, there'd be a bootneck unit out there, right?
Yeah. And do you know what? The Taliban would start to cotton on to this because
really,
yeah, I'm not being.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
My cousin, my brother-in-law was in an army regiment as a reservist.
Yeah,
and he's going to support what you. I know what you're going to say. I'll let you crack on with that.
Okay, I'm not being derogatory to the army. Listen, I take my hat off to any of the regiments that went out there and served. When I joined the SRR, I served with a lot of lads from the wider army because I was now in a bigger pool, and those lads had done their Herricks. And what I found was Bootnecks, we tend to do the winter tours. I don't know if that's a tactical move by
Arctic and Mountain Warfare, aren't we? So
we're just used to the cold. And the army regiments would typically take over the summer tours. The downside to that was summer tours. The Taliban are fair weather fighters. They don't like fighting in the rain. They don't like fighting in the cold. But they'll fight all day long in the sun. So those summer tours, I mean, from what I used to hear, they were pretty damn brutal for those army regiments.
Really?
Absolutely brutal. You had lads, going out on a patrol. They've been going out on patrols for like 4 or 5 months. Troop commander saying, Private so-and-so, your point man today with the LMG. And I used to hear stories of them going, no, please, come on. No, not today. They just didn't want to go out because
we're going to get hammered effectively, due to no skill of themselves. They were. It was fighting season type thing, right?
That's it, fighting season. That's what it was, fighting season. And you used to hear stories of like they'd be patrolling through those cornfields, the big cornfields. I mean, these cornfields are like 10 foot tall,
Yeah.
real dense greenery. You'd be trying to make your way through that, and they would literally come within feet of a Taliban insurgent with an AK, and it's
Wow.
who can draw fastest. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah. My
they were.
brother-in-law was in the Fusiliers, and
Yeah,
he relieved a bootneck unit, I think, when he went out there on tour.
Anglians, Fusiliers, PWRR, Green Jackets, paratroopers. I mean, you hear some of the stories of those paras when they started setting up Sangin back in the beginning days.
Getting
Grenades,
absolutely pelted, weren't they?
grenades were coming over the wall, and they were picking the grenades up and throwing them back over before they went off.
Proper close-in fighting.
Oh, mate! Apparently, they were looking over the walls and they're seeing these people, these insurgents, these Taliban. They're not Taliban, Chechen mercenaries.
Yeah.
Proper kitted up, like full on lower boots, magnum boots,
The
assault
soldiers,
vests,
aren't they? You know,
mate.
effective, conventional soldiers.
And they're fire maneuvering towards you. Now, fire maneuvering is such a simple thing, isn't it? But to put it into practice,
Not
that is
so easy.
that's a professional setup. To move in pairs and
Yeah.
consciously and deliberately put that skill set, moving in pairs, moving in singles, moving in fours. When you see that
Tactically
coming
understanding the opposition as well, and saying, right, well, we
yeah,
need to left flank that.
yeah,
It might look easy on paper, but
yeah,
the Taliban weren't necessarily doing that against yous, and to
no,
have maybe that coming towards, like you say, the
yeah,
paratroopers at the time, it's like,
yeah,
wow, that's conventional. It's conventional war fighting as it gets, isn't it? Where
yeah.
two armed aggressors are fighting each other and pepper
Well,
potting towards each other.
well, you see that coming towards you. You're waiting for a fire support position to be put up, and then when you're waiting for a right or left flanking with a grenade coming over the wall, and then an assault. You know,
Which I remember speaking about this in training, and you'll probably understand where we're coming from here. In that scenario, the British military, at least when I was in, we only ever practiced winning. We never seemed to practice losing, and I always thought it was necessary to, right, what if they're starting to do exactly what you've just mentioned there?
yeah,
Conventional NATO
yeah,
standard war fighting.
yeah,
What do we do then?
yeah,
Because it kind of like evens itself out and almost renders what you're doing a little bit useless. Not
yeah.
useless. I don't know how. What do you think of that?
Well,
We don't
you know,
practice to fight against that happening. You know what we're going to do to others. How do we fight against what that if they were to do the same to us?
well, the way that the British military or any kind of larger, more advanced military will counteract against that. I mean, to my knowledge, is the rule of threes, isn't it? Having 3 times as much manpower to overpower what you're coming up against.
Yeah,
And if we didn't have that in those fobs in manpower, you certainly make up for it in Apache gunships,
yeah,
105s,
supporting.
50
Yeah,
cal
yeah,
javelins, 81 millimeter mortars. Yeah.
and one or two lads who have Mong strength. Get the
um,
front.
but yeah, where were we? So but the through the ICOM scanners, which was their way of intercepting the Taliban's messages, they would be conscious and aware when there was a changeover of the guard, changeover of duties at those. But they're seeing it year after year after year. Sometime in the spring, sometime in the autumn, there's a changeover.
They've got
But
their own int as well, haven't they? Getting back and forth.
and it was picked up that they feared the time more when the bootnecks were coming in, and I don't mean that derogatory to
No,
the
I,
army. I really don't.
I think they. I mean, you can tell with ground that was taken back and stuff like that as well. You know, you'd get entire tours just literally being supported around the patrol base, for instance, and not going out. Whereas the Corps, statistically, I believe, had the most casualties, and that's including like injuries and all sorts. You know,
Yeah,
because of the active patrols that the Corps did. It was phenomenal. It wasn't like they were grafting.
Oh,
Every military group was grafting over there. There's no question about it. But what the Corps, and I'd imagine the Parachute Regiment would probably do something similar to this, is being quite aggressive with taking that ground. I mean, you've done those tours yourself. Did you have
we
many days off?
no. If for the Herrick 7, I served at a fob called Fob Incoming, known as Fob Incoming.
Incoming.
Incoming purely because of the amount of income it took. SPGs, contacts, with regular conventional small arms, just mortared every day. Every day you'd wait for that mortar alarm to go off, where it just detected something come over the horizon, and you
How
just
close were they?
what, the mortars?
Yeah.
Landing within 50 meters of you. I never actually really remember any of them actually landing within the grounds, but I remember them landing outside. I remember being on a Sanger and having an SPG hit my Sanger, but it was Hesco Bastion, so it just vibrated a bit and caused a lot of dust. You know, that Hesco Bastion that's going to stop an SPG.
Wow.
Yeah, direct hit on a Sanger from an SPG, but it's hit the actual, but it's hit the Hesco Bastion.
Do you think they were doing the 50 meters just outside on purpose to get you guys interaction, get you out and doing stuff?
No. They're literally homing in on you. You know, we had a big Alpha Company flag up, which we had to take down because it was becoming a little bit of a marker for them. You know, they could adjust their mortars according to where it was landing in accordance with that flag. Yeah, so that was we were building up to Herrick 7 when I went to 40 Commando. So I've come back from 4-2. I wanted to go to 40 Commando because I wanted that camaraderie. I wanted that full tour. I was diamond in training, so I said, "Look, I think I should have it."
Get your first draft.
Yeah, the powers that be agreed. And when I got back from 4-2, I literally spent a day on the base at Plymouth. Went on a computer, accepted the draft to 40, went on leave, and turned to 4 weeks later at 40 Commando down in Taunton, ready for PDT. Yeah.
Shooting you guys still, even after a tour and a gong, or were you feeling?
So, I mean, you'll know, Ryan, what it's like in a Corps, mate. You could pass out of training at a particular time, go to your unit, and then you're 2 weeks ahead of the next people that pass out of training and come to your unit. And that 2 weeks is 14 days.
It's a good buffer. You're no longer the sprog, are you?
You are no longer the sprog. You don't know shit compared to that guy that's just come out of training. But
yeah,
you are no longer the shit shield. I mean,
it's weird how it works, isn't it? I mean, we were talking offline about how you were literally in a war zone. Yep. New guy, Diamond, clearly a good guy because you're an original, and you were good enough to get selected as a BCR. And there's other guys at unit who guaranteed were, you know, more than capable of stepping up, having probably done in Iraq or whatever. But you got chose to do that, so you were trusted, wearing the same lid as everyone else, getting treated like a shithouse, effectively. Duty spunker, new guy, fucking in a war zone.
Yep.
You know, how did that feel?
I had that bootneck resilience. You know, you've just gone through 32 weeks of shit at CTC. However, I was very much focused on 40. I was like, just fight through this, get through this. It wasn't comfortable, Ryan. It really wasn't. You know, my sergeant major at 4-2, he didn't even have our backs really. You know, he was still very aggressive as well. The section commanders who you're supposed to look up to and supposed to guide you, very, very aggressive. You was just duty shitbod until I was duty shitbod for the duration.
A lot of people wouldn't know that dynamic happens. And I wanted to talk about that because you hear loads of stuff, especially on podcasts and stuff, where it's all sunshine and rainbows, and we talk about kicking doors in, and I'm a bandana and wearing 7.62 link carrying bad MF, and it's like all good, you know. But it's not like that really, and it wasn't like that for you for your first tour anyway. Yeah. And you need that dynamic though, don't you? And you just whatever, man, kind of thing, isn't it?
Even more exaggerated was the treatment because I was joining a a troop of guys, a section of guys, a company of guys who had really been through it, you know. And that's not justifying, you know, their kind of aggression and disliking to me, but well, again, I go back to the old saying of Sergeant Quinn on the balcony on the stairs at CTC. What do you want to do? Go and see the Padre? Crack on,
Well,
boy.
that is kind of a big part of the military in general, but certainly the Marines.
Yep,
That I think a lot of people. I mean, and we can give all of the good stuff, and this is it's like a backhanded compliment, but it's the way the Corps is, and part of me thinks it has to be this way. There's no pats on the
absolutely.
backs.
Yeah, yeah, mate.
You're the new guy. You're going to get treated like accordingly. And hey, guess what, troops? The Corps is full of alpha male gorillas. Every
Yeah.
one of them earned their place, and it's that kind of alpha male absolute gorillaness doesn't stop just because you've turned up. You're the new guy.
Oh, mate, imagine I turn up. I'm a diamond. I was top of my troop. I was on that TV program, mate. That don't mean shit out here.
I mean, it doesn't teach you humility; it forces it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. And that humility I've carried my whole life ever since. Ever since.
hard earned.
Humility. Yeah, yeah. That
And
humility is.
I think a lot of people couldn't hack that. They at least want some kind of like, well, I'll paint the picture for a normal person. Maybe he's even, dare I say it, a regular part of the British military. Well, I'm here with you guys. I am part of your team now. I want to be accepted. Can you treat me nice? And but that really is too fluffy for the coin, especially at
Yeah,
war. It's not going to
yeah,
happen, is it?
yeah. No, it's not going to happen. So, like I said, suck it up, get on with it, and look forward to the draft at 40 Commando. And when I got to 40 Commando, um, I was, I had a little bit more of a standing because I had done a Herrick, part of a Herrick. I come back from Afghanistan, so you know there was a lot of lads there who had maybe done 1, 2, 3, 4 months out of the box more than me, but they hadn't been to Afghanistan, and
Yes.
it held weight. It held weight.
I can imagine, yeah. So you were sproggy compared to them, but you'd just done Afghan.
Yeah.
We right.
However, it didn't. It didn't get me. It didn't get me out of doing a joining run.
I was just about to say, a lot of guys are scared to talk about this, but we need to talk about these things. You know why? One,
Because they're funny.
they're funny if you're a witness, but two, it's like when normally authoritative people, positions say you can't talk about something. I agree to a certain extent about certain stuff, but when one, it does happen, and two, they're the ones saying it shouldn't,
Yeah.
then I kind of think, well, hang on, I had a join and run, and yeah, it was hideous. And
Yeah.
and I kind of think that join and runs are necessary, personally. So yes, it's hideous.
Yep.
Join and runs are necessary.
Well,
What's your thoughts on them?
They asked me, Williams, Bung. I was called Bungy. That's the name for anyone called Williams. Bungy, did you do a joining run? And you know,
You've got to be careful, haven't you?
mate, this is where integrity comes into play. And if you say, yes, I have, and you haven't,
That's it. Career over.
it's not a case that it's if it comes out, it's going to come out.
Yeah, it's a small world, the Corps.
Yeah, you are literally just like creating a rod for your own back. So ask that question. Just be honest. Show integrity. It's going to serve you a lot better. If you lie, you are going to be duty shitbod, and there's nothing you can do to get out of that. It will carry with you for the whole time here, and you're probably looking at years before that's gone.
Well, you might promote as a corporal. You probably get the wooden spoon. You might promote as a stripey. It follows people around. I know guys in the military 8, 9, 10 years later. Yeah, if you're a shitbag at your first draft, it normally follows you. It's weird. It's a small world. So you did a join and run. For those that don't know, join and runs are they're like they call it initiations. I'd imagine no worse, really, than what a group of rugby lads would do to the new guy who joins the team.
I don't know. Is it if Phil firing was the first commando test, and then you had 4 commando tests after that? Is
This
a
is the
joining run
fifth or sixth.
5th or 6th commando test?
Well, it's
unpleasant, mate.
I
It's
mean,
really unpleasant.
you were at 40 as well, right?
Yeah, I was at 40 commando. Yeah.
All right, I've got a story. So I hid in Alpha Company grots in the bedrooms in the lines. The last tour of Afghanistan was going on. I was a battle casualty replacement who was never getting sent there because that just wasn't happening. So I had 6 months off effectively when I first joined, and we hid in Alpha Company grots. No one knew we were there, and we hid there for like 3 months or so.
Spotters, like
Yeah,
spotters.
yeah, not turning to lines or nothing. Like literally hid. And then a couple of lads started drip feeding back from other units. A couple of sergeants, a couple of corporals in, and then it clotted on like, lads, what are you doing? We weren't even part of Alpha Company. We were living in these bedrooms. And there was rumours that they were going to organise like a joining run for all those lads who didn't have one, and we managed to escape that one. But then
Sorry, can I ask a question, Ryan?
Yeah.
Who was going to organise a joining run? The lads that were currently in Afghan?
So it was I can mention his name, but I'll not give any specifics. A lad called Taff. You can guess where he was from. And he was a corporal, PW guy. And he noticed there was a lot of us like just floating about with like stubble and stuff. Not
And
really part of the unit.
He was bored. So
he was snaggy. Yeah, he was a snaggy guy. He was juiced up. He was just that guy. He was just that guy. And we were shitting ourselves because we were out drinking with him a couple of times, and he lost it with us quite a few times. I'm thinking we don't want to mess with him, but we managed to escape that one. But when the lads came back from Afghanistan, we got assigned to Delta Company. In my case, all of us pretty much, and within a couple of weeks, they were hard on the beer. They got post leave and stuff, but when they came back, it was Gimps and Hose night, and yeah, it was brutal.
I remember the joining run. I mean, I don't really drink, Ryan. I've never been a big drinker. I used to drink before I joined the Corps. You know, I remember going out and as we spoke about before, I remember, you know, going out on like a work night as an electrician and getting in at 5 o'clock in the morning, going to work the next day still drunk. But as time went on, I never was a big drinker, especially in the Corps and especially later on down the line, especially in UKSF and also as a civvy. I've never been a big drinker. I don't like the feeling of being drunk.
Same.
For me personally now, drinking, I believe, is an exacerbator of mood. And
100%.
And with my medical discharge with combat trauma, the mood that tends to come out is a lot of anger and rage. So I try to stay away from the drink. But I remember on the joining run, I hadn't yet done Herrick 7, so I was still pretty good in my head, you know. I was still quiet, but I wasn't really, you know, the social misfit that I would become later down the line due to the Afghan tours. But I remember being like probably one of the drunkest I've ever been on that joining run. Sheppey cider, is it?
Sheppey's, yeah. Oh, Sheppey's. It's in Taunton. It's near Taunton, right?
Yeah, I mean, that stuff.
Oh, God, you get it in the bottle of, like, is it a litre or 2 litre bottle where you hook it with your finger and neck it?
Mate.
Horrible stuff.
You are literally being belt fed with Sheppey cider whilst you get to go through a series of very degrading, very humiliating, very painful games.
Very painful, yeah.
Very
like,
painful.
Really painful beer mats to the arse, ripping cheeks. Ripping cheeks off.
Yeah. Somersaults into stinging nettle bushes, thorn bushes naked. Who can do the best somersault? Loser has to do it again.
So, you know the trees, you know the wood block associated out the back of lines at Alpha and the rest of the lines. Yeah. Did you ever have to do that naked tree climb, first to the top kind of wins?
No, my worst memory of the joining run was dog food or cat food is always a great
yes.
It's always almost like a compulsory addition to a joining run. So all the new lads, they're all naked. They've all got they're all on all fours like a dog, and they've all got a bowl of dog food in front of them.
Yeah, it's true.
And then someone comes behind them and puts a length of toilet tissue
roll.
into
Yeah.
the crack of
And this stage, guys, is called flaming arseholes.
into the crack of their ass, and they then set it alight. And when they set it alight on the buzzer, the person who's on all fours with the toilet roll in their ass on fire has to eat that bowl of dog food, and they can only get up and get that toilet roll out their ass if they complete that bowl of dog food.
Yeah,
lads are being sick into the dog food.
You've got to scran it still.
It's still got to eat it, and if you don't, then you're going to end up that fire's going to hit you the crack of your ass, and you've got blisters.
Flaming arseholes happens like pretty soon as well. I remember dog food scranning and flaming arseholes happens pretty early on. It did in ours.
Mate, you wake up the next day, didn't you, with like the most horrific hangover, and you get in a shower, and that water's trickling over your body, and the blisters and the cuts and the thorns that are in your skin.
Yeah, it's diabolical. I mean, I do want to add this, just in case we've got any aspiring Marines, and this is Jen as well. This is not just because we're talking about it. Join and runs do not exist in the core anymore, and I can go into detail about why, but it's the gen don't exist anymore.
There
was a specific person who I actually served with who, long story short, got them shut down big time. So join the core, you're not going to get flaming arseholes anymore. It's not going to happen.
Well, the naked roll mat fighting that ended up in the news, didn't it? I believe
it did. Yeah. We didn't do the naked roll mat fighting. We did naked pokey bum fighting. So,
oh mate, I heard the stories. I heard the stories up at 4-5 as well. You imagine you're in that situation where you're on all fours trying to eat a bowl of dog food before that tissue sets your ass on fire, and then you've got paintball snipers up in the windows. Taking pot shots at you with paintball guns.
Paintball guns hurt. There might have been some actual, there might have been some like 177 rifles knocking about there as well, possibly.
I was like, trust those lads up at 4-5 in Scotland to add an even harsher dynamic to what is already harsh.
With that ski slope as well in the middle of a camp, like why has that camp got a ski slope there? I don't know. But there's a ski slope in the middle of this camp, and it's got no snow on it. It's that fake abrasive snow stuff. So you can imagine doing fire maneuver up and down that thing.
Yeah.
It's gonna, yeah. Strange old thing, but I mean, you can imagine like a join and run being everything that you'd imagine of a typical initiation. I've got friends who are in rugby teams who've done stuff very similar. It's a part of it. I think for me, what it definitely did to me, I knew my place afterwards. I knew my place. I was duty new guy, despite being at unit for like 6 months or whatever. Boxing team made me egotistical if you're on the boxing team, aren't you? And it put me in my place. It taught me that actually I can learn something. These guys who've been here longer, they're running the show. And a place like the core, despite the woke mentality of this world right now, I still think it's needed. You need to be knocked down a peg or two, and blokes do this very well with each other. We don't do it via character assassination or name calling or backstabbing or calling each other behind the backs. Worst comes to worst, it's gonna end up in a violent conflict, and that's how men have settled things for a long time. We just did it. Probably is arguably a little bit more civilized. We're not scrapping with each other out the back of the lines. We're having a bit of a join and run. You'll do a couple of naked games and flaming arseholes and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's massively needed to drop the ego, because you got 18, 19, 20-year-olds past arguably the world's, definitely the longest basic infantry course on the planet, arguably one of the hardest. You're going to be on cloud nine, aren't you?
Yeah, I never thought about it from that perspective, but it definitely does bring you back down to earth with a thud. After that, I'm not saying that it was necessary to achieve this. However, after that, you are very much there is an acceptance, isn't there? And there's a bond.
There's an acceptance, yeah.
Because they all go out on the drink afterwards. They go down to Taunton, they go down to Plymouth, they go down to, well, I don't know where they go at Arbroath.
Like Dundee and stuff, if they ever go far ashore and stuff.
And you all go out and, you have a night out with each other, and that's where you mingle with your section commander, your 2I, your Lance Corporal, 2IC, your sergeant probably had something to do with it. It doesn't. The
Provvy would come round and check on you, like, how's things, right? If you need, like, you
imagine like even the camp police haven't got my back on this.
Yeah, the provvy will like come round. All you had to do is tip your hat. Look, we've got to join and run at night. Yeah, happy days. Thanks for letting us know. When's it over? 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Pop round if it's getting out of hand. And he probably chucks a couple of eggs as well, to be fair.
Yeah. Oh, mate. Yeah. And do you know what though? You're right in what you say. It doesn't go on anymore. And I think if it was to go on, I think the repercussions for those that organise it and instigate it and participate in it, they're incredibly severe. They're career destroying, aren't they?
Arguably prison time as well.
Really?
Yeah.
I know that I've heard stories of your dishonorably discharged, service no longer needed.
It's a different place now, James. I mean, people forget this. Your last draft was the army, effectively. So when you talk about the army, it's not like you're for or against. You were part of the army in SRR, weren't you? Effectively,
yeah.
So
I was in an army regiment. Yeah,
so you speak from both sides of the coin. Being at the upper echelon of the military, you might not see what goes on below as much, I would say, because you guys are operationally committed. Like, it's a constant thing, right? So, But when I left in 2017, I saw it starting to creep in. And I'm not going to get into the whole... Yeah, there's a couple of things starting to creep in. They were definitely talking openly about females joining frontline close combat troops. All of that kind of stuff was jumping in. Rhetoric around that as well. Language associated. For instance, I was on an equality diversity board just before I left to talk about the changes that were going to be implemented. They got a lot of blokes from 30 Commando to talk about the changes that we're wanting to implement about women joining, for instance, and one lad referred to the women joining as chicks joining, which a woman officer stood him up from the Navy and went, "What do you say?" And he went, "Well, chicks joining." And she went, "I beg your pardon." And then one of the senior lads, the stripey who was leaving, he went, "See, this is the actual problem. What we're going to do at unit if there's a woman there, we can't refer to them as chicks anymore. This is what we do in the Corps. That's what we call them."
Do you know what, Ryan?
And that was
for me personally, it's not the biggest hurdle I've come up against out in Civvy Street since 2020, but it is definitely something that I have to be aware of. I come from that time in the Corps, and I don't actually consider myself old sweat because there was guys that taught me stuff from the Corps and guys that took me through SRR training who had served in the Falklands. I mean,
wow.
these guys were time served. I consider myself still sproggy.
In that context, I know where you're coming from.
And but I come from a time where we violent entry was called violent entry. It wasn't called green salamander because violent entry is too aggressive. I come from a time where there was no limit on how many press ups you could give a Marine, a recruit, as punishment. It was endless. And I come from a time where, if I was to tell you some of the things that the training team used to say to the lads, you was getting hammered for anything. They was going to pick out anything about you to try and break you. Whether you was Welsh, Ginger, Scottish, whether you was like me from the southeast, Essex boy, whatever, they would find something. If you was whatever your race was, your religion, they didn't mean it in an offensive way. They meant it in a way of, we're all in this together. If you can't handle this, and I noticed it on SEER as well when I did SEER, they would hammer you for anything you had about you, colour, sex, anything. If you can't handle this here, how are you going to handle when you're being captured? How are you going to handle that side? You know, if you're sensitive to this, you're in the wrong environment.
Well, I'll put it down to, and I've spoke in the military on these boards and conversation topics and everything with people just before I'd left, and the whole thing that's confusing to me, confusing because it seems like certain people don't get it, especially the higher ups. I understand why this is all coming in,
I
but,
understand it as well.
but
Yeah.
I don't agree with it, but I understand it. But you tell me this, James. Fundamentally, at war, like what they're experiencing in, for instance, Ukraine v. Russia, right now, in a trench,
Yep.
the actual closing in and doing the final thing, killing
Yep.
the enemy, fighting hand to hand,
Yep.
is about as violent and barbaric as anyone could ever imagine. It is as what you can't get
Well,
any more savage
no.
than that as a man, right?
Well,
And if
Brian,
they're trying to get this woke mentality into the military,
yeah,
it's like, well, hang on. If this happened, well, let's stop the killing then. We don't need a military if you want to have words and this, that, and the other in place. Do you know
yeah.
what I mean?
But
What's the point?
you know, coming over a trench and hand-to-hand fighting, it's as offensive as it can get, isn't it? It's like it's
I
the
don't know
ultimate.
anything. I don't know anything more offensive.
And if you can't handle someone calling you a chick, if you can't handle,
Yeah, this was it. One of the lads were laughing.
If you can't handle someone calling you fox piss because you happen to have ginger hair,
For fox, yeah, my Bezzy Oppo is ginger. That's we just shortened it down to piss.
and I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason why those bootnecks in the Falklands would be told, right, yeah, you haven't got helicopters, you've got to get over all that land with all that kit, and you've got to do it all on foot in that shitty weather. There's a reason why they just cracked on and did it.
They just cracked on. There was no one there to go, well, what about this? We don't need that. We've got 100 and odd plus miles. I don't need you with your shit. Get out of here. Those will have been thinned out back to the reorg. Simple as that. And that's what's going to happen if we ever got in a major conflict now.
Yeah. It was a fundamental mindset which was born in its infancy at CTCRM, and no doubt before that, in the way they were brought up and they grew up in their childhood. There was no, you can't say this, you can't, him pronouns, blah blah blah, her, they, them. I don't even know where it's going to go, but it's a strange one. Yeah.
It is a strange one because, again, I think the time and the place for everything, and I do think it's good to regulate a lot of stuff that wasn't regulated now, but even in the military in certain places. But when it comes to organizations like the Corps, they try and butter it up to be pretty and this, that, and there's nothing pretty about war. There's nothing pretty about the consequences of war. Forgive me if I've crossed a line. There's nothing pretty about the mental anguish that you've suffered because of it. There's nothing pretty about any of it. And
the other thing as well, I heard, we never talked about this when we're talking about training. They give recruits like questionnaires to ask them how training's going.
Yeah, they were even. They weren't in when I was there, I don't think, but I experienced that on course. Yeah, 2015 or so.
You expect your training team to say, I don't give a fuck how training's going for you. Suck it up.
Yeah, it's... I don't know. It's a tricky one. I've talked about this all day. I'm quite passionate about... I'm quite passionate about things that have always been normal for a long time and sticking with that. I know we've got to progress, but little things like I'm really big on like tradition, like masculine men and feminine females. I love that. I know you haven't got that in some scenarios, but I think generally speaking, that needs to be upheld. And I see it being diminished in the military as well across the board. Enough people talk about it for it to be kind of true, but yeah, I mean, we started touching on other things really there, but it kind of ties into how things have probably changed, i.e., at 40 Commando, being treated the way you did, Afghan,
Yeah.
arguably necessary, I would say.
40 Commando was where, for me, was the best unit I was at. I was at 4-2, I was at 4-5, I was at Faslane. 40 Commando I consider to be my home Royal Marine parent unit. That's where I had the best bonds, I had the best laugh, and that was because I was, starting PDT, pre-deployment training for Herrick 7 with a bunch of guys. We was all going to go through the same thing. We all did our training together. PDT for Afghan, Herrick 7 was basically a continuation of training. And you have to understand, Ryan, this is where I begin. I've had my foot on the gas since the beginning of recruit training. I've gone to Herrick 5. I've come back. I've done pre-deployment training, ready for Herrick 7. The foot is firmly on the gas, and it was going to start. I was going to put my foot even more on the gas as the career went on. I had no intention of taking it off, and I was very lucky to go down a path where I made the right moves and I was in the right place at the right time to have the career that I did. But yeah, so I'm with these guys. We're going to go to Herrick 7 together. Pre-deployment training, just an extension of Royal Marine training. However, you've got the introduction of, live 105 rounds, live air, being inoculated to what live rounds over your head is like. So you know what that sound of that bullet whizzing over your head and the snap of it. The range is a lot bigger, a lot more organised, being supported by army regiments to create that more realism, stuff that you didn't have in CTC, on a build up towards Herrick 7.
Pre-deployment, Commando Training Centre, train you to be a soldier, pre-deployment training, and the soldier to be able to fight in a war.
Yeah.
Doing all of your usual stuff. I'd imagine IED things were more of a threat in 7, were they?
Yeah, no. But you had extensive IED training, a lot of range packages, a lot more medical packages, a lot more medical training, and a lot more of a laugh, because it's a more relaxed atmosphere. You're not in that recruit atmosphere. Instead of your corporal, your section commander giving you shit, they're trying to bring you on, trying to give you their experience and their knowledge. That was very apparent.
Was this your experience of being in a team, being accepted in a team? You didn't have that dynamic in your first Afghan tour, but now you felt, actually, I'm a member of my section. I have a specific role. My corporal is the guy I'm looking up to be able to learn from. And it all sunshine and rainbows to a degree, or?
That allowed, the environment there allowed me to begin to shine even more, to then send me on my path towards UKSF. So
harnessing those skills and developing them further with confidence as well.
Yeah. And actually began to say, being able to show, I'm not just a good recruit. I'm a good bloke. I'm a good soldier. Okay,
Good Marine.
Yeah, I'm a good Marine. I've got potential.